All right, let's put this crab on ice.
SpongeBob isn't as innocent as you remember. Hidden inside Nickelodeon's vault are episodes so controversial they were banned, and for reasons far darker than silly jokes.
Panty raid?
Panty raid?
On the surface, SpongeBob SquarePants looks like harmless fun. A sponge flipping burgers, a grumpy squid, and a greedy crab. But beneath the laughter, certain stories crossed lines Nickelodeon never wanted kids to see. Episodes that touched on humiliation, paranoia, even real-world fears. Things you'd never expect from Bikini Bottom. And here's the twist. These weren't accidents. These episodes were written, animated, produced, and then pulled. Not because they were boring, but because they struck nerves too raw to ignore. So why would a network censor one of its biggest shows? What was so unsettling about these lost episodes that Nickelodeon buried them? Stay with us as we dive into the darkest corners of SpongeBob's history. By the end of this video, you'll see the show in a way you've never imagined. And trust me, you'll never look at Bikini Bottom the same way again. When people talk about SpongeBob's banned episodes, Midlife Crustacean always tops the list. At first glance, it looks like a simple story. Mr. Krabs wakes up one morning and realizes he's old. His reflection in the mirror, his aching claws, even his daughter Pearl confirming it. Everything screams that his youth is gone. But instead of accepting it, Krabs spirals. He becomes desperate to feel young again. And when he overhears SpongeBob and Patrick planning a wild night out, he jumps at the chance to tag along. What follows starts as silly misadventures, laundromat antics, dumpster diving, but then takes a sharp turn. The trio ends up on what they call a panty raid.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
Yes, you heard that right. Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob, and Patrick sneaking into a woman's house to steal underwear. Already way too suggestive for a kid's cartoon. But the real shock? The underwear belongs to none other than Mr. Krabs' mother. When she catches him red-handed, Krabs isn't just embarrassed. He's shattered. The once proud, tough businessman is reduced to a humiliated child. What was framed as comedy ends in discomfort, leaving viewers unsettled instead of laughing. This was the exact moment Nickelodeon decided it had gone too far. The humor had crossed into humiliation, and the network quietly pulled the episode from rotation. But here's the thing, this wasn't the only time SpongeBob went dark. Another episode would push things even further, turning Bikini Bottom into something out of a nightmare. If Midlife Crustacean was banned for being awkward, Quarantined Crab was pulled for being terrifyingly real. On the surface, it's classic SpongeBob. The health inspector visits the Krusty Krab and warns of a possible clam flu outbreak. But instead of the usual slapstick chaos, the restaurant suddenly turns into a prison. The doors slam shut, no one can leave. And just like that, the once friendly Krusty Krab becomes a lockdown chamber. At first, it's played for laughs. SpongeBob nervously cleaning, Squidward groaning about being stuck, but then paranoia creeps in. Mr. Krabs, terrified that the virus could ruin his business, takes control. He starts accusing his own employees and customers of being infected. Anyone who sneezes or coughs is dragged away and locked in the freezer. SpongeBob is one of the first targets. Squidward follows. Even Pearl isn't safe. What should have been harmless comedy begins to look eerily familiar. The fear, the suspicion, the isolation, it all mirrored what the real world was living through during the pandemic. Viewers didn't see a silly cartoon anymore. They saw their own anxieties reflected back at them. By the end, the inspector announces it was a false alarm. But the damage is done. Trust between the characters has crumbled. The restaurant is wrecked, and the comedy feels more like a nightmare. Nickelodeon quickly pulled the episode, realizing it hit far too close to home. But here's the kicker. Quarantined Crab wasn't the first time SpongeBob dipped into darker themes. There are other hidden stories that reveal just how far the show was willing to push the limits. When people think of SpongeBob, they picture bright colors, goofy laughs, and nonsensical adventures. But if you peel back the layers, the banned episodes reveal something else entirely. Themes far too heavy for a children's cartoon. Take Midlife Crustacean. On the surface, it's about Mr. Krabs trying to feel young again. But underneath, it's a story about denial, fear of aging, and the humiliation that comes with clinging to the past. That panty raid gag wasn't just inappropriate. It symbolized Krabs' desperate attempt to hold on to youth, even if it meant embarrassing himself in front of his daughter and friends. Then there's Quarantined Crab. It wasn't really about a virus. It was about paranoia, the way characters turned on each other, the way Mr. Krabs assumed control, and the way isolation tore friendships apart. All of it mirrored the raw human fears people were already living through. For kids, it was unsettling. For adults, it hit too close to home. Nickelodeon wasn't just worried about bad press, they knew these episodes blurred the line between silly entertainment and disturbing truths. SpongeBob had accidentally crossed into territory where the jokes no longer landed. They stung. And once you see that side of the show, it's hard to look at Bikini Bottom the same way again. But this brings us to a bigger question. Were these themes really accidents? Or was SpongeBob always designed to slip deeper messages beneath the laughter? Even though Nickelodeon pulled these episodes, their legacy didn't disappear. In fact, their removal made them even more intriguing. Fans began hunting for copies online, trading clips, and debating the meaning behind every scene. What was once a forgotten part of SpongeBob's history became a cornerstone of cartoon conspiracy discussions. Here's the thing, banning them didn't erase their impact. Midlife Crustacean still sparks conversations about how kids' shows handle adult themes like aging and embarrassment. Was it a mistake to air such a story in the first place, or was it simply too real for younger audiences? And Quarantined Crab feels even more relevant today. It captured the exact fears the world faced during a global pandemic: paranoia, distrust, and isolation. Nickelodeon may have seen it as too raw for children, but for adults, it was a strange reflection of reality in a place we least expected: Bikini Bottom. What makes these episodes unforgettable isn't just their darkness. It's that they show SpongeBob was capable of tackling deeper human truths. Underneath the slapstick comedy was a mirror of our own fears and flaws, and that's why fans can't stop talking about them. But here's the real twist. Were these just accidents, or was SpongeBob's cheerful world always hiding shadows we weren't supposed to see? So now you know, the hidden episodes of SpongeBob weren't just pulled for fun. They crossed lines, explored fears, and revealed sides of Bikini Bottom most fans were never meant to see. But the question remains, did Nickelodeon protect kids, or hide the truth? If you loved uncovering these secrets, hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stick around, because the world of cartoons is full of mysteries waiting to be exposed.
Someone in this restaurant is infected with the highly contagious clam flu.